Thank you for inviting me. As you may know, in the Jewish tradition, we always open teaching by a joke. So the joke goes: it's a rabbi, a priest, and an imam, and sit together, and in the mountains in front of a beautiful view, and the rabbi starts and say, oi, 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 oi. And then the priest say, oi, oi, and the imam says, ay, 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 ay. And the rabbi say, okay, we said we won't talk about religion. So I will articulate my talk in three dimensions, 3 parts. The first part will be the judgment in the Torah and the place of the justice in the Torah. The second will be mediation and restorative justice in the Torah also. And the third will be modern issues linked to, as we can say, interfaith encounters. So the translators asked me to talk slowly, so I talk slowly, sorry. Alright, so first, as Leonardo said, I'm a rabbi and I talk about the Jewish tradition, Judaism. But in fact, Judaism is a word that was coined by humanists in Europe in the 16th century. And we ourselves don't call our religion Judaism. We call our religion Torah, which means Torah was translated in Greek into nomos, which means law. But I think it's a mistranslation because we have other words in English in Hebrew to say law. So Torah means guidance, means teaching. It comes from in Semitic languages you have usually 3 letters root, and the root of Torah is W-R-Y, waraya, which means to guide, to teach. So Torah really means guidance, and that's we in our belief, in our faith, we say it's the guidance that was given from God to humankind, to the people, the family of Israel. And it's close to another root, very close. It is W-R-W, yaraya, which means to shoot, like in a bow and arrow, to shoot. And so sometimes the connection was made.
Siccome i cellulari preferiscono, dobbiamo spegnere perché altrimenti non riusciamo a sentire.
So in Hebrew, the words to sin is hata, from a root that is hata alef, and it means usually to miss the target. So you see, not to miss the target is to shoot well, and to shoot well you have to learn from the teachings how to shoot well. Well, it's closing the parenthesis. So Torah has a narrow meaning. The narrowest meaning means the 5 first books of the Bible, the Pentateuch. I don't know if you say the same thing, Pentateuch. And more largely, it is the Hebrew Bible. It's called Torah. It's a written Torah, which includes all the prophets and all the writings, like songs of song. And more, even on a broader view, Torah means everything that is related to religious teaching. You have the oral Torah, which was transmitted orally from the prophets to the rabbis, and which was compiled into what we called Mishnah and Talmud and Midrash. This is the compilation of oral law. This is the oral commentaries and teaching that were received and transmitted up to now. And on the broadest meaning of Torah, it means Jewish religion. Everything that when someone speaks about religion, he is doing Torah. Alright, so now it is said in the Mishnah Avot, I don't know how to translate that. Okay, that's okay, it's not important. On 3 pillars, the word stands, or the word exists. On Din, on Emet, on Shalom. On justice, on truth, and on peace. So on justice, on truth, and on peace. And it is to be compared to another saying of the Mishnah a few chapters before, which says, on 3 pillars the word stands. Here, the what I said, it's more Qiyam, which exists, and the other one is Omed, which stands on the Torah, on the service of God, and on charity. So the way that we say that justice, Din, is one of the 3 pillars on which the world exists. So it's very important, which is all together with truth and peace. Alright, so we have in Hebrew, we have 3 ways of saying justice. I wrote them here. The first one is Din, the second one is Mishpat, and the third one is Sedek. Alright, so Din comes from a root that is DWN, which means really ruling, or a rule, or a sentence, or a law. And it gave the word Dayan, which means a judge. The second one is Mishpat. Mishpat means mostly judgment. And it gave also from the root Shapata. And it gave also the word Shofet, which means judge. And you have a whole book, the book of Judges in the Torah. In Hebrew, it's called Shofetim, meaning judges. So it's from another root. And the third one is Sedek. Sedek from the root Sadaqa. It means mostly justice. And it gave also another word, Sadiq. Sadiq means the just, or the saint person, the just person. So in the Bible, when you see the Hebrew Bible, most of those terms are exchangeables. Exchangeable, I mean, you may use one or the other, even if the meaning is not exactly the same, but it's very close. And we have a story about King David. It's a verse in Samuel 2, chapter 8, verse 15. وَيِهِي دَوِيدْ عُرْسِي مِشْپَاتُ صْدَقًا. David was doing mishpat, judgment, and sedaqah, from the same root of sedek, means justice, or it may also mean charity. And there is a question in the commentaries, because usually it's in Hebrew language, you usually start by sedaqah, and the other, by example, another verse in Proverbs 21:3, it is written aso sedaqah mishpat, to make or to do sedaqah first, so justice first, and then mishpat, judgment. So this is the usual way. So why in King David's case, it is of the opposite. So the commentaries say that David was first doing a judgment. He was first judging. For example, if someone stole, so the judgment was what was stolen has to be returned. But usually when someone steals, they steal because they are poor. So the one who steals has even less after returning what is stolen than before. So the King David was doing charity by giving this poor stealer money. So he gave him money that he will be able first to return what is stolen, and secondly to be able to live and not to steal again. So you see, this is the way, and I think we're coming to restorative justice, meaning yes, law. There's one way. If someone steals, he needs to give it back, but there are circumstances of stealing, and this is the most important. You have to assess those circumstances. I'm clear here? Up to here? It's a little Jewish center, but we'll come to things that are larger. First, we have to establish what needs to be established. And everybody knows about King Solomon. King Solomon was the paragon of justice and the epitome of justice. You all know the story about the two prostitutes, and there's no need to talk about it. So you see that in the Hebrew tradition, a king must be a just king. The king gives justice, he's doing justice, he judges, but the judgment has to be just. And when it was like that, it's reported in the tradition, and when it wasn't like that, it's also reported, and they were coined as bad kings or bad queens, and God's wrath was upon them, and many bad things happened to us because of that. You see in the Torah in general specific attention is given to the oppressed and the poor, the meek, like an orphan, like a widow, people who don't have the means to be able to live. And the Torah is very keen to say, as a society, as a social structure, you need to establish rules that those people will have means of subsistence. Otherwise, it's not a just society. So justice is linked to judgment, it's linked to justice, it's linked to charity also. To give and to sharing. I'm sorry, I'm mixing languages. And incidentally, since I see that les donne here are like the majority, and so I need to address the place of women in religion and in justice in particular. As we see in the Bible that there are no problems with women being judges. We see that with the prophetess Deborah, she was a prophetess and she was also a judge. But with the evolution of religion and of rabbinical tradition and the Greek influence on the Semitic world, the Greeks were very misogynistic culture. Women were like packed away, and because of the conquest of Alexander and his generals, the Greek feeling about women, the place of women, like started to enter little by little the Semitic world, and by the 3rd or 2nd century before Christ, before the Common Era, the Jewish people started to feel bad about women being in charge of men in the cult, like in the synagogue. leading prayers, and also in judging, and even by testimony. And nowadays, in the Jewish halakha, in the Jewish law, the canonical law, a woman can't even testify, which is absurd, I think. So here there's a place of changing things, and it's changed already in the Reformed Judaism and Conservative Judaism. I don't know if you know about like the streams in Judaism, but anyway. And I'm part of an Orthodox movement that is called equalitarian, which means that we gave back the women a place that we took away like 2,000 years ago. And they have their place in the liturgy and in the judgment and all the rabbinical system. And if a woman knows more Torah than men, so she should teach, and she should be a rabbi. You know? Yes. So there's the first Orthodox rabbi of the community is in England. The first Orthodox rabbi woman is now in London, which is I think a great achievement for Orthodox Judaism. But you know, Orthodox Judaism is a very monolithic block, and it's very difficult to move things forward. Anyway, so we come back to the many people are interested into like judgment and maybe study law. And so, how do you form a rabbinical court? As a rabbinical court usually is 3 judges. There's no judgment of one. It's minimum 3 judges. You have exceptional court that is called Sanhedrin, which is a Greek word. It's 23 judges. It's to, like by example, to judge capital punishment, like if someone was killed or anyway, which is grave. I mean, usually 3 judges cannot judge life and death. It needs to be a Sanhedrin. And you have the Great Sanhedrin, which is 71 judges. As there were in every city, there were a Great Sanhedrin, usually when we were in our Holy Land, and especially one in Jerusalem. And they were judging like things that are linked to the community, to general things, not specific things, but general things. Like the date of the holidays, which were fixed according to the moon phase and the sun, and so the great things that were fixed by a great Sanhedrin. Anyway, so how do you judge judges? I mean, you don't go to a rabbinical court like that. Usually the parties, one party chooses one judges, the other party chooses another judges, and the 2 judges, they agree together and they ask for a 3rd judge. So like that you have like a balance. You don't have, I mean, usually in theory, say you have a kind of equanimity or neutrality, and the court is like bias neutral in theory. And the judgment has to be given the same day. That is very important. In Judaism, we say that it is a concept. It's called Inui Hadin, which means hurting the judgments. Hurting the judgments. If someone spends more than one day waiting for his judgment or for her judgment, so it's a cause of suffering, even one day, which is very far away from what's happening in the Western world. No. It's even worse in France. Not especially in Italy. It's worse in France. There aren't even enough judges, and for like very trivial things, you can wait for like years, like 4, 5, 7 years, just to know for your neighbor, like the boundary between 1 meter here or here, and you wait 7 years. I mean, in Judaism, it's impossible. It's the same day. So it came to the ears, this thing of the same day, it came to the ears of great big companies, you know, they put fast judgments. And so in London, in the city, you know, they are big companies, big money. When they need a judgment on financial stuff, they go to the rabbinical court, because rabbis and rabbinical judges, they know about money. I mean, there's a big, we have a very subtle laws about money and stuff. So I mean, we are able to judge even like the great companies, and we give the judgment the same day. Very convenient, because time is money, as you know, and they cannot wait like months or years. That's amazing. So the same day, very important. Also another thing, it is said that in the Mishnah that a Sanhedrin, which means like a tribunal of 23 judges, that puts a man to death once in 7 years, is called a murderous court. It's called a murderous tribunal. And some people say even once in 70 years. It means that the circumstances of putting someone to death, they have to be they have to be rare. I mean, you don't kill people. I mean, there are always explanations at why someone killed someone another, and you should always be clement and use your clemency and your understanding and your love and compassion to judge people. And at the point that if all the judges agree, all the 23 judges agree that someone is to be put to death, he is not put to death. Because you cannot be, it's impossible that everyone agrees that someone